All right, we've got our week 12 preview of Pitt and Boston College. We also have fan comments that we love to go over each and every Wednesday as we get ready for the week's football season, and then some basketball to sprinkle. It's a little wet your appetite. We'll talk about all of that here on today's show.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. I'm your host, Candace Cooper, joined by Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack. Each and every day, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you download and subscribe to the pod from anywhere you listen. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. On today's episode, we'll talk through Pitt, we'll talk through Boston College, we'll talk a little bit about he said, she said, fan said, and then, of course, get into our comments as we write off Week 11 and get ready for Week 12. Kenton, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling really good about this week. I'm feeling like, this is what better time as we are winding down towards the end of this season. I can almost smell the greens, beans, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken, turkey, lamb. I can almost smell it.
Lamb
already.
Is that all? That usually what you have for Thanksgiving?
I mean, no, but I love lamb chops. So if anybody wanted to make some lamb chops, you know what I mean? I'm not going to send this to the person who normally makes my Thanksgiving dinner. I'm lying. I'm sending it to you and your husband, but that's neither here nor there. But I do enjoy a little bit of lamb.
Is that Auntie Lynn? Is that who you're sending it to?
Okay. All right now.
Don't
get federal. Curious. Don't get federal.
I was just curious.
Don't get federal. Don't get federal.
I was just curious. I didn't know who you were sending it to.
It's actually going to Miss Burnett. Thank you very much. But,
okay.
Or Mrs. Burnett, actually. But thank you. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm.
Listen, Thunder will make it roll. Let's talk about what will be exciting this week as we head into Thanksgiving. We have a lot to be thankful for, and that's some really good football matchups here in the ACC. To kick things off, we have some Thursday night lights with Boston College and Pittsburgh. Listen, I know that we put Pitt at the bottom of the class. I know that Boston College is sitting at the middle. And I know we want to sit here and say, this should be a gimme for the Eagles. But, Pitt has been known to upset only once, but still has been known to upset. And it could happen again, right? Crazy things have happened. Boston College coming off that big loss against Virginia Tech, looking for some redemption.
Absolutely. And I also think that one thing that needs to be recognized here is it's not just that Pitt lost the last game. It's the way in which they lost. It's the way. You're looking at a Boston College team. Their strength is a young man by the name of Thomas, don't call me Tommy Castellanos. Now, what does Thomas Castellanos do best? Where does he have his most help? When he is putting that ball under his right or left arm and making something shake with that. So if that is in fact the reality, and Pitt, knowing what we know about them, is seeing what they're seeing. If Narduzzi goes in and tells this team, hey, not only is nobody's job safe, what we put out was embarrassing. We got pushed around, we got bullied, we got beat up. So for this week, I'm not leaving the front seven. Everywhere y'all go, I'm going. Your individual periods, congratulations. I'm here now. You wanted me to be there? I'm there. You need a little extra attention? You got the extra attention. Yeah. That could lead to a negative result for Boston College. But the reality is, again, I think that this is kind of a year that Pitt is just punting away. And so I think Boston College could be all right in this one.
Well, my biggest thing for Boston College is the injuries, right? If you check out our friend AJ Black and his 247sports.com article talking about Ryan O'Keefe, the wide receiver, being out, George Takis being out, Pat Garwo, Jalen Blackwell, Shida Sila, Bryce Steele. I mean, can you just name anybody healthy, right, in a short week where you're trying to bounce back and recover? Running back Kai Robichaux, like that to me is going to be the biggest hurdle for the Boston College Eagles.
I mean, and this is another reason why I said that Pitt could very easily upset this team because, I mean, you're looking at a Boston College team that What was their problem last year, right? We talk about how bad the O-line was, but they were pulling over substitute defensive linemen. You look at this team this year, who are their weapons out wide that are healthy? You know what I mean? Like, who are their weapons out wide outside of, I believe Tomlin's kid is still healthy. But everybody else, who was slated to be a starter, slated to be big time, they're walking around in the boot or they got a sling on, which, that's not really what you want to see. You can't catch too many passes with that being the case. So I'm looking at this situation and I'm saying to myself, Boston College has shown that they're the better team, but they are very banged up and on an extremely short week.
And playing on the road.
And the same way that we said Pitt could have already punted this year, what else would Hafley really have as a goal for this team beyond bowl eligibility? And they've already accomplished that. So, this game could very easily go either way.
But I think, we talk about the Fighting Halfleys. I think they certainly have turned their season around in big ways, but it's also one of those situations where if you don't question Hafley nearly as much, but I think we talk about the young guys and the recruiting and how you're going to continue some success. It might be one of those matchups like worth winning, just given the record of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. And I think that this game will come down to one thing. One team has Thomas Castellanos. The other team does not have Thomas Castellanos. And therefore, I think that will be the deciding factor. And I know that that's like a joke, and a lot of people talk about certain quarterbacks in that way. But very seriously, and I know I've joked often about I don't trust the Canadian quarterback in Villieu and all that. But the reality is, if you look at the quarterback play between these two teams, it's not even close. It is night and day. Thomas Castellanos has been a quarterback that they're winning because of game after game after game after game, as opposed to whoever Pitt decides to trot out, be it Villieu, be it Jerkovich. It doesn't matter. They're going to have to win most likely in spite of that guy, because Boston College defense has been showing up to play as of recently, the last game where they got absolutely mauled on the ground aside, which again is a moment where Jeff Hafley, another defensive coach, can go to his front seven and say, hey, what we put on that film, terrible. Don't want to see anything like it again. So I'm here with y'all as well. So I think that Boston College pulls out a close one here.
Well, we'll have to see. Again, Thursday night matchup kicks us off, and it's always, again, an exciting time to get some of our ACC action on the books. Let's talk about our friends here at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege. FanDuel.com/LockedOn and get your NFL season underway. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Kenton, how are your Lions doing, by the way?
What a time to be alive. 7-2, beating up on some charges that they said, out there in LA, the Lions ain't seeing no success out there in LA. Matt Stafford's the only Lion that's going to see success out there in LA. Well, look at the Sun God. Look at Amon-Ra trotting on into the end zone. Look at Jahmyr Gibbs
having quite the season.
Love him to death. You remember every receiver that got drafted in front of you. You tell me what college they went to. You tell me what blood type they got, brother. You keep doing what you're doing.
Jahmyr Gibbs, former Georgia Tech great, decided that he was going to take his talents over, to Alabama and have himself a semi-successful time before going to the NFL. Things we love to see.
I mean, it's a great time, and it's always exciting to have these moments. But it's just so beautiful to take this all in. Don't forget their quarterback, future ACC team, Cal graduate in Jared Goff. It's lots of ACC connections over there, and it's always a good time.
We try to forget about that Cal Stanford connection, but here we are. Oh yeah, SMU as well. We always love a Wednesday where we can just get it all out of our system. We give you 2 shows where we provide some recaps and some feedback. We do Monday, he said, she said, fan said. We do Tuesday with our power rankings. And those are the spiciest episodes we have for the week. And we always love to talk through it, just one last time before we write it off and turn the page and head to the next week. So before we get into week 12, going to go through some comments.
Let's do it.
We talked about the refs being bad, and NA_K said ACC refs are bad, but they showed up and showed out this past weekend. Feels like every game there were multiple bad calls. The ref playing cornerback and deflecting Miami's pass was hilarious, though. They tired of the fans complaining to the ACC. They said they're going to show you all of us what it is. And, at the end of the day, if you sprinkle a little badness, right, can we all get along, sing a song? Or is it just we do need to have some sort of reflective moment, Commissioner Phillips?
Commissioner Phillips needs to have a damn reflective moment. One of the essential parts of the game, and here's my deal about the referees, right? Your job is not to decide the game. It's to literally officiate it. It's quite literally what it says, right? The preacher is not the important part of the wedding. The preacher just officiates the thing. He does the things to keep everything moving in procedure. That's what these referees are supposed to do. But instead, with blowing as many calls as they have, and again, I am not saying that these calls have been horribly one-sided or horribly against one team or another at any particular point in time. But what I will say is if these calls continue to be as bad as they are, and if they continue to be as impactful as they are, it is hard for anybody to have confidence or faith in this conference to get it right. This is embarrassing out of point.
Well, it makes it nervous for you. Think about the ACC championship and what potential implications could become of it if Louisville or North Carolina gets there against FSU, a team that we need to go to the college football playoffs. And let's say we have a couple blown calls that goes into the opponent's favor, and the opponents being anyone other than FSU could, shake some implications of not being in the top four when it's all said and done.
And my old coach Thomas Bush was loving to death, and he told us y'all have to be good enough to not only beat your opponent, you have to beat the refs as well, because they're going to call a touchdown back every single game because they don't want boys from the city winning at the scale that y'all are at. And that actually happened. That is actually a very true story. We actually had some websites that were covering high school football slow down plays and show bit by bit every player for every frame to say there was no penalty committed. This is a phantom call. And I'm going to say this. It's easy to do that in high school. In college, it's different. The difference between the best players in the ACC and, let's just say the best players on Florida State, the worst players on UNC, who are going to be starters, of course. The difference is not monumentous to where you can be better in that way, right? So if you are doing what you've done, right, you're missing a call like they did against Miami with the holding against Keon Coleman, where everybody's like, Jordan Travis just overshot Keon Coleman. No, Keon Coleman was held. That would have been a touchdown if he were allowed to run under the ball, or if they throw the flag, congratulations, automatic first down where they ended up punting the ball. So if these things happen, and they're in the favor of, against the favor, doesn't matter who it's for or against. This will undermine the integrity of the championship game. And that is something you don't want to see. You truly don't want to see a game where the officiating is that bad.
100%. Mr. Jim said, I think the ACC should set a precedent, be trendsetters, and revolutionize the review process. Make it a committee that reviews any play to make sure reviewed calls are correct, no matter what play it is, no restrictions, and make it a committee of 3 or 4 or 5 people that majority vote wins. Getting the play correct should be the goal, not protecting the refs or the call on the field.
I agree. And I want to take it a step further. I want to propose something that a lot of people are going to be mad at, but I don't care about. The NBA puts out a last 2-minute review of, all that, what happened, all that good stuff. I want to see the refs have to have post-game press conferences as well. I want to see, because, and think about the timing of this. The refs go straight off the field into their locker room, get dressed, and, go home and all that. What if, while the teams are going into their locker room to get dressed or whatever the case may be, the refs immediately came to the podium to say, hey, answer for any calls, answer for, hey, that's a clear interception by Duke. How'd you get a reception out of that? What happened there? What are you looking at? Hey, this is clearly a safety. Where'd you get down at the 1-yard line from? Hey, this is very clearly, whatever the call may be. Hey, why did you call this call in this moment? Can you point us to the letter of the rule that says that this rule needs to be officiated in this way? Whatever the case may be. Because again, I am for full transparency. And also, I'm going to take this one last step further that a lot of people, especially referees, ain't going to like. I would like an independent committee to review every call that's made in a game and give refs grades. Give refs a grade on percentage of calls that you got right, percentage of calls that you missed, and the refs who have the highest grades are the ones that get the big time game. They're the ones that get the conference championship game. They're the ones that get I don't want to see no crew out there that got C's and D's on their report card, baby. No, sir. Put out the baddest heifers on the floor. That's who I want to see for the ACC championship.
Oh my God. It's like, I think that you have some nice analogies and then you just go with the one that just throws everything off the loop. But Willie said ACC stands for another crappy call. And I don't want that to be our reputation. You know, I don't want that to be for at the end of the, go ahead.
And the worst part is there's so much good football being played. There are so many spectacular players. We should be talking right now about how good is Cam Kenton? How good is he? Very seriously, when is the last time we saw an ACC safety be that good? That's what we should be talking about. How good are those Florida State receivers? How good are they? How good is Jordan Travis? That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about Castellanos. We should be talking about Gelati. We should be talking about those. But instead, we are sitting here talking about the zebras. Foolishness.
And let me tell you, these people are very upset about my verb, of course, because, you know, it's our show. Yeah. They're mad because we said Florida State rolled past Miami. Okay.
All right.
So the fact that we said Florida State rolls past Miami, we didn't say Florida State
survives or escapes or
you know. What is this rolls past Miami nonsense? Says Sean Andrews. Miami had a chance to tie or win the game in the last possession. Miami dominated the trenches on both sides of the ball. The difference in the game was a 6-year FSU quarterback versus a true freshman quarterback for Miami in his second start. Did you actually watch the game? Is your title just clickbait?
I mean, we in fact did watch the game.
Tyler died.
We in fact tweeted about the game, but engage with our tweets. I promise we're gonna be tweeting about the big games.
Follow us at Locked On ACC. We do tweet. We do it in real time. I don't know. Hey, crazy.
And we respond. We respond a lot. You can ask the different fans. If y'all want to get in sports debates with us, we got time today, tomorrow, the day after that, the day before that. We got time. But very seriously, it's the thing is, let's not get caught up in the minor details here. I do agree that, they didn't roll in the case of dominate, whoop the wheels off them, all that good stuff. They won the football game. They won the football game. Let's stop with the semantics and making that, don't major
L
in the
peace.
Yeah, don't major in the minors. Don't do that.
It's just silly. It's truly silly. But, Dustin said he doesn't even know why he tries to watch this show with a serious face. And I just want Dustin to know, ain't nobody telling him to watch the show.
Hey, listen, here's the thing. To everybody who tells us how terrible we are and they want to leave, because I know there's a lot of comments like that. Mm-hmm. This, my friends, is an ACC podcast. Mm-hmm. This is not RDU. This is not DTW. This is not, what is the one in DC? Is it BWI? Is that the Baltimore one? It's not BWI. It's not, any of those airports. You don't have to announce your departure, baby. You can go. You can go. And, I get it. Y'all know that in the Black community, you can't just leave an event without dapping people up and saying bye. I understand.
All right. All right now.
You got to give everybody, you got to say bye because, everybody going to look at you funny like, did Candace just leave without telling nobody bye? I get it. However, this podcast, we're not in community together in that way, even though we do love our community here. Don't get me wrong. But we are not in community in that way to where we would feel bad if you don't announce your departure. We still love you. We love you. But, you don't need to tell us. You don't need to tell us that you're leaving.
You know what? We don't lose not one week of sleep either way. We promise you. We promise you. Let's talk more about these comments here in just a second. But first, want to talk about our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patient. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Kenton. Willie said, Candace, have you started a send-off video for Coach Elko? I have a feeling he's going to get a few calls from College Station. And I want to say that I personally would be sad that Coach Elko left, because I feel like he definitely helped elevate what is, ACC play and put, people on notice what he's done for Duke football, all the things. However, semicolon, comma, I don't think he's leaving. Nina gonna roll out the brink truck. It's not gonna be the same as Texas A&M, because that's different money. That's oil money. But she gonna bring it out.
In the words of one DJ Khaled, tell them to bring the yacht out. You got to bring a lot of money. I don't think that y'all quite realize what you're saying and saying that Elko is leaving this year. And don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. I know that Texas A&M got a whole different ball game of money than what most of us are looking at. They're number 1 or 2 in NIL alignment every year. Every year, right?
Number 1, yeah.
I'm sorry, number 1, second to none. I'm a Cass Tech rapper. You got to drop that on you. But I understand. I'm with you. I'm with you. Mm-hmm. But they got to pay old Jimbo $75, and then they got to pay old Elko out of Duke, and then they got to pay Elko to actually coach there. Now, I think this is a scheme by Todd. No, but very seriously, I think that this is a moment where you've got to look up and say, yes, it's technically feasible. And I'm not going to lie, the rumblings have been getting louder and louder. Not going to lie, the rumblings have been going on actually longer than most people think, but that's neither here nor there. But the reality of this thing is there needs to be a lot of moving parts figured out. And I'll tell you this much. Mm-hmm. Whether or not he goes, whether or not you need to prepare the send-off song, enjoy him while he's here. Enjoy him while he's here.
Well, Mega Frank Garcia said, I agree with Kenton about Mike Elko staying at Duke. He can go 8-4, 7-5, and 4 years ago 9-2, beat some conference bigs, and he can retire a rich man. It's called doing the Stoops. Let's hear it for Virginia Tech, NC State coming up strong at the end of the season. Miami, Georgia Tech fall off. It's all about some balance. It took Norvell 3 years to build a team to compete. Took Brown 9 months, and ultimately they're mirror teams. Now let's talk about the what ifs. What if Louisville wins its last 2 and ends up ranked to number 6, beats Florida State, and big loses to Louisville, ends up 4th in the playoffs due to recency bias? Yeah, FSU needs to play Louisville if they want to bolster their playoff hopes. Go Cards. And I agree with him on that. They need to play the Cards versus playing North Carolina. That would definitely help. And beating the Cards makes for better conversation than beating North Carolina. But have you seen that North Carolina defense?
Let me take it a step further for you. Let's really bring the yacht out here, okay? If we're looking at these teams and saying, hey, who's what, who's who, who's the top 25, who's this, who's that? If we look at the CFP top 25 right now, right? If we're looking at that and saying, hey, who is what in terms of where they are at for week 12. Louisville would have to jump Bama, Texas, Oregon, Washington, and FSU in order to get in. That's a lot of teams. And you don't, in the words of that song, they got a long way to go and a short time to get there. We don't know
what song is that?
It's I'm on the road, coming down there and trucking. Something, the way we can. I don't know. It's the next line is we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I know that part.
Help the church. I listen, you got the most music analogies of anybody I know. And I just for the people, right? I want to make sure we get it right.
I have an eclectic music taste. But that is a part of the song. I know for a fact that we got a long way to go and a short time to get there is a thing, because I remember Coach Crowell always used to say that to us whenever we had a bad performance heading into the playoffs. He said, we got to get a lot better. We got a long way to go and a short time to get there. And I was like, where did you get that from? And he explained one day it was from some old country song or another, and that's where it came from. So, yeah, Louisville got a long way to go in terms of jumping all those teams in terms of the CFP rankings. Sure,
but in the end, I prefer to see a Florida State Louisville, and that's just me from someone who is clearly a graduate of North Carolina. I'm just trying to be real with myself, right? Maybe a little reverse psychology. Defense want to figure it out, but I also saw them in person, and that soft coverage was a very real thing. So there's that. But we end the show here, right? We've had a lot of Florida State controversy on this show for the past season. And I just want you to know we have some people on our side. We have people that said y'all have a point about FSU fans. FSU fans are easy to trigger this year. The younger FSU fans don't know how to act like they've been there before. The bigger problem is the older FSU fans still remember the excuses from the playoff committee back in 2014 when they kept moving them down from the rankings. That was the year where the very first committee ranking had Mississippi State as number 1. Meanwhile, Florida State was undefeated. All the things. So a lot of people have some trauma they got to get past. But as an FSU fan, I think you guys do a good job of being fair and balanced. Florida State Seminoles, Candace and Kenton, y'all have been fair all season about FSU. Don't worry about the stands. They begin on legit fans' nerves too. Have been for years. And you know what? Sometimes that's what we need. You got Dustin who hates us. You got people who say, we do what we do. Yeah. All in all, it works great for both of us.
I mean, I'll tell you this much, right? Mm-hmm. Again, I could understand if we were looking and begging and wishing for a reason to put FSU down. If we said every time FSU struggled, they're not number 1 anymore, we've given them their respect. We gave them a sermon last episode to tell y'all how good we think they are and how the call against Florida State wasn't the only bad, or the non-safety wasn't the only bad call in the game. We trying to take care of you. We trying to take care of you. We trying to tell you what's going on. The reality is, again, this Florida State team is very special. We have talked about this ad nauseum. We ain't going to keep saying it, but so many times and but so many ways, okay?
Nemo. We not talking about them Nemo. All I will say, though, is I'm surprised that we didn't have more people in their fields, especially from the Miami side, about the power rankings to be the number 10. Because if you think about just the way Miami started out this season, I'm surprised at how they've fallen a bit in regards to just the inconsistency.
Yeah, I think that Miami fans understand that, the style points are important and all that, but one of the biggest things that we look at on this show is how does your team actually look? I think that Miami fans have accepted we do actually watch the games, and the reality of watching these games is simple. Ever since let's say that Clemson win, I don't think that they've looked good at all. And mind you, that was backed into by a loss to Georgia Tech where, just bend the knee, and then you lose to North Carolina. You look good against Clemson, and then you struggle against Virginia, and then you put up 6 points against NC State. It's hard for us to kind of pump you up after that one. And, especially when your quarterback, who now has to be the starter, is looking at 0 touchdowns to 6 interceptions in conference play because Emory's done. With all due respect, he had the soft cast on before he even left the field. That brother is, hey, we'll see you in 2024. We wish you a speedy recovery, brother, but he's done.
I'm trying to tell you. Yeah, 100%.
I think the Miami fans know, they're seeing the same thing we're seeing. Even if these fans don't have the same feelings or they have a bias toward their team more than we do, I don't think that any fan base is absolutely out of their mind to the point where they'd say, so what that we're playing with a quarterback that just can't stop turning the ball over. We're just fine. They're not there.
Week 11 is done. Week 12 is upon us. Boston College and Pitt are kicking us off. Mm-hmm. Then we'll have a full slate of games to go over. Get your fan votes in. Okay. Make sure we do the he said, she said, fan said votes. We'll do all of that tomorrow. So get your tallies in on our YouTube page. We get our community thing. You can let us know how you're feeling in that regard. And then we'll talk a little basketball because as we're recording this, Michigan State and Duke are going head to head. Could be some great times. Could be some stressful times. I would hate to see Duke start out with season 1 and 2. So who knows? Yeah. We'll talk about all of that. Shout out to my boy Caleb Love, though. That Duke hate is real. We'll talk about all of that tomorrow. So yeah, Ken, until next time.